Now, in our previous video, we covered the early years of Joseph Stalin, from his youth to his steady climb through the ranks leading up to the era of collectivization. And in this video, we will continue his life story. You will see how his brutal leadership turned the country into a global superpower in a matter of years, right up until the moment the Nazis invaded a bunch of countries in Europe, including Poland, and promised Stalin no Nazi tricks by invading the USSR. So, how do you think that went? Okay, so we will check all of that out, including the years after World War II and that whole Cold War thing we all pretended was over at some point and somehow we still seem to be messing around with. So yeah, let's start talking about the shit show called Ukraine. No, not today's shit show. I know, things are starting to get a bit confusing. We are talking about the 1930s collectivization shit show in the Ukrainian territories of the Soviet Union. The grain collected in these regions was all moved to the big cities, since this was part of Stalin's 5-year plans to turn the USSR from a peasant society into a steel and coal powerhouse. The focus? Heavy industry, not farmland with actual living people. Productivity? 100%. Fun on the job? 0. The USSR basically became a 22 million square kilometer Amazon warehouse, if the heaters stopped working. And just when you might think things weren't bad enough, Stalin opened an even darker chapter, the Great Purge of 1936 to 1938. He targeted anyone he perceived as a threat to his power: party members, military leaders, intellectuals, scientists, and ordinary citizens. By the end, about half of the top officers in the army, including marshals and generals, were executed, froze in the gulag, or simply vanished without a trace. It wasn't uncommon for Stalin to stay up late and tune in to interrogations. He probably hoped to hear a few confessions here and there, so he could sleep in peace, probably. Kind of like a little child getting his bedtime story, except these stories involve wire cutters, some dental instruments, and some proper drainage. By the time Nazi Germany was gearing up for Operation Barbarossa, the planned invasion of the Soviet Union, the USSR was ill-prepared to fight off the Germans. During the years of industrialization, the Soviet factories managed to pump out around 20,000 tanks and 10,000 airplanes to defend the motherland. Which is a lot, but when half of your commanding officers are dead, well, that's not going to help you one bit, is it? What is going to help is this epic plush, which is available in stores. Meet the Stalin Plush, the hardest name in history, reimagined as your softest collectible. Inspired by Joseph Stalin, duh. This infamous figure has been transformed into something surprisingly huggable, strangely charming, and just a little bit intimidating. Set him on your shelf, your gaming desk, or even in your bed. No judgment here. Just keep in mind that he's not exactly famous for showing mercy. Part of our Bad Boys in History collection. This limited edition plush is available in stores and won't be around for long, so don't wait. Click the link in the description and claim your own squeezable Man of Steel today. But there is no greater evidence to Stalin's distrust towards basically everyone than the amount of intelligence information that was ignored about the imminent German invasion. Just to name a few, Richard Zorger, a spy stationed in Tokyo, told Stalin about the German plans. Multiple spies in Berlin told the same story. British intelligence shared details about massive troop buildup on his doorstep. Hell, even the neutral United States told him to start prepping for a shit show, and if that wasn't enough, Hermann Göring himself happily told a Swedish friend about the invasion who leaked the plans to the British. With all this information in his hand, Stalin decided to reach out to Hitler and just ask him what the hell was going on. To which Hitler replied, "Nein, man, no scary stuff. We're just hanging into Poland and chilling, yeah. We just really like it, yeah. Many cows and flowers, oh, super good." And apparently this was all the Soviet dictator needed to hear to be appeased. However, a few months later, the Germans attacked, more or less in the same fashion as how everyone predicted, to which Stalin would have replied, "Oh." And besides the surprise, Stalin was mostly in shock, and it took him a few days to get a grip and start leading the country to defend the motherland. Yeah, that didn't go so well either. The Germans blitzkrieged their way through Ukraine, and city after city fell to the German panzer divisions. During this phase, Stalin adopted the Scorched Earth policy, which meant that everything of value threatened to be lost to the enemy had to be destroyed. Probably those Ukrainian farmers were fine with that, since they never owned a thing in the first place. Within months, the German panzer divisions reached Moscow, but a Soviet counterattack plus the Russian winter finally stopped the German advance. The following year, Hitler was determined to regain the initiative, so he pushed his army into Stalingrad and towards the oil fields in the Caucasus. Now at this point, Stalin became the center stage for the two dictators to show who got the biggest balls. And since Hitler only had one, I guess he was destined to lose that battle. And because the Russians encircled his 6th Army, which disintegrated under yet another harsh Russian winter. For the remainder of the war, the Soviets were mainly occupied pushing the Germans back all the way to Berlin. While doing so, Stalin met with Roosevelt and Churchill in Yalta to decide Germany's fate after the war. Speaking of confidence. 3 months after the capitulation of all German forces in Europe, the USSR declared war on Japan. Apparently, the US just dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima 2 days prior, killing 80,000 people in the process, and now Stalin was eager to occupy Japanese-held territories in East Asia. A day later, Nagasaki got the same treatment, another US-dropped nuclear bomb. Because apparently one wasn't dramatic enough. And just like that, World War II went out with a bang. Well, or technically, 2 bangs. But for Stalin, there was little reason to celebrate. The Americans had just dropped 2 nuclear bombs, turning Japanese cities into grayscale Google Maps, and the Soviet Union hadn't even tested one yet. The accelerating Soviet nuclear program, designed to catch up with the Americans, marked the beginning of the Cold War. Meanwhile, the Iron Curtain expanded across Europe, dividing the continent between capitalism and communism. Kind of like an MMO game, except getting kicked by the admin means you die a horrible death, so you might want to stick to the rules while playing. Now, for many years, Stalin's Soviet state would continue to run on fear, paranoia, and enough spies to, well, keep an eye on spies as well. In his final years, Stalin's health started to deteriorate. High blood pressure, heart trouble, smoking like a chimney, and probably wondering if the shadows on the wall were plotting against him. The old dictator still ran the USSR like a paranoid video game. Every minister a potential villain, every general a possible traitor, and every letter a secret death sentence. And then in March 1953, the ultimate plot twist happened. Stalin dropped dead. No coup d'etat, no stab in the back, no secret poison, just his own body betraying him. Well, what did the guards in the next room do? Of course they hesitated, which shouldn't surprise anyone since disturbing Joseph Stalin could result in arrest, exile, or just a plain execution. So, those terrified guards, frozen in place and too scared to act, were unable to help a dying Stalin who was, quite literally, in no state to help himself. They waited for hours until a brave soul finally decided to check up on him. Then, incredibly, they waited even longer before a doctor showed up. And as it turns out, there was also a so-called doctor's purge happening at the time, so finding a doctor who was both available and alive wasn't exactly quick or easy. Now, despite being dead, Stalin's legacy would live on for a very long time, as well as some of his quotes. Ideas are more powerful than guns. We would not let our enemies have guns. Why should we let them have ideas? The people who cast the votes decide nothing. The people who count the votes decide everything. A single death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths is a statistic. Of course, the empire of fear he'd built didn't vanish overnight, but the Man of Steel himself, well, out of office, permanently. And the world? Well, the world exhaled, nervously glanced over its shoulder, and thought, good luck to the next guy. Don't miss your chance to grab the Joseph Stalin plush while it's still available. We're also raffling off 5 completely unique Stalin portraits among all buyers. Each portrait was fully hand-modelled in high detail by us, of course, and designed to perfectly match the plushie. They're personally signed, one of a kind, and nobody else has them. Click the link in the description to order now. This limited time offer is ending soon, so don't wait too long. Once it's gone, it is gone. And for more strange, fascinating stories from history, be sure to subscribe to the channel.